Hey everybody, Coach Mike is here. It is Friday, January 9th. It is Coach Mike's Always Improving, episode number 6. You know, a lot of times I will give you advice on this podcast or comments or stories or whatever. Now, sometimes you might think, why am I doing this? Why isn't it common sense what I'm telling you? And I agree, sometimes it is. Something I learned a long time ago. I used to do a radio show, online radio show on youth sports out in California. And the gentleman that owned the station said he did a show on gardening and environmental stuff. And he said that, Mike, don't ever be afraid to repeat yourself or use something you've already used before, because he says, I can't tell you, he would tell me how many times people would call in and say, my grass is turning brown. What do I do? Water your grass, So it's easy to judge what people are thinking, and there is a lack of common sense overall, but at the same time, sometimes we have to give credit that maybe somebody didn't hear something or didn't learn something or whatever. And as far-fetched as it might seem, I mean, really, I'm sure if you've been around at any time over any number of years, you've seen things that amaze you and think, wow, why don't you know that? Why can't you think that way? Why is that not common sense to you? But with that being said, I'm going to share something today that hopefully will go a long ways for you. As a combination of being flexible with your decisions, with your plans, with your goals, but also at the same time to be firm in what you believe and where you want to go with it. When do you bend? When do you become flexible? Because I'm sure you've seen both examples, and I can't give you a rock solid answer on this. You sort of have to feel it out for yourself. But you've seen people, maybe yourself, that where sometimes you're too firm or too rigid in what you want done, whether it's with your business or whatever, and you end up getting in arguments over it, or maybe an employee quits or something because they don't want to take that next step. And then the other side of the coin, you can be too flexible, and especially, for example, it would be like, I've coached youth sports for years. If you're too easy, you're too flexible, and you don't make accommodations because students would run into things now and then, and you want to give them a break. But if you do it too often, people will take advantage of you. They will take advantage of the situation, and now you're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish. And that's when a lot of times I think as a business owner, as a parent, whatever it might be, you end up taking on more on yourself. You're taking more responsibility. You're taking more effort and work on yourself, because let's say your kids don't do the chores you gave them. And now you're frustrated. Kids have already gone to school. Maybe they had some morning chores, or they took off to sports or whatever. Something didn't get done. Trash didn't get taken out. Whatever it might be. And now you're frustrated. You got a choice. Okay, do I wait and make them finish the chore when they get back? Or if they're still there, do I get mad and crack the whip, so to speak, and say, hey, you got to do your chores? Or do you do it yourself because you just want to get it done? With a business, it's sort of like that old saying, if you want it done right, do it yourself. But if you do that too often, then people get in the habit of expecting you're going to solve the problem every time. So where do you find that balance? You want to have flexibility to give people a break. We see it a lot today with, and I think personally, in my opinion, it's gone too far, but where employees want more time off. They think, now if whether it's an animal passing away or, just all sorts of stuff that 20, 30 years ago, we never would have thought of saying, gee, I need the day off today. I stubbed my toe or something, whatever it could be. So put down your guideline. Where do you want to be? Whether it's your rules, whether it's your goals, whether it's how you're treating those around you, your relationships, where do you want to be? And at the same time, how flexible can you be? within reason. What are you willing to concede to keep the overall atmosphere working better towards the goal you want to achieve? I hope that helps. It is Friday. Weekend's here. Hopefully you get a rest for the weekend. If you're not somebody that's working over the weekend, I get that. Always make sure you got a day of rest. Remember one thing, God created the world in 6 days. The seventh day, he rested. Now, your seventh day might be Tuesday, Wednesday, any day, depending on your work schedule. But make sure you get a day of rest, will you? And if you want a little help sleeping, well, send me an email or a DM and I'll help you with that too. God bless you. We'll see you on Monday. Coach Mike is always improving.